in this example, you are given a system of equations and you are asked to solve it. Now, on your test, you do not have access to a matrix calculator. So you cannot use a matrix to solve this. You need to do so by hand. All right, so I'm going to call that the yellow equation and this one the blue equation. And we are using that to help us out. All right, so the first thing is I need to choose between elimination and substitution. All right, now notice none of the coefficients, so none of the numbers in front of x and y have a 1. So substitution would probably suck. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use elimination. And to use elimination, I need these written in standard form. Or at least in the same order. I prefer standard form. So for this one, I'm reordering the negative 11x and the negative 4y. All right? That way it goes x, y, constant. The blue one, I'm going to do the same thing. The x and y are already in standard form. I'm just going to scoot the 20 to the other side of the equal sign. And now my two equations look somewhat similar. So the next thing that I want, if I'm going to use elimination, is I want to make sure that I have, the same coefficient, so the same number in front of the same letter, but I want them to have opposite signs. So one of these is going to get multiplied by a negative. All right. So I could decide. I could decide between the 10 and the 11, or between the 4 and the 10. All right. Now, sometimes you could just multiply one equation and get it to match, but none of them are really that easy. So I'm going to choose to match the y values. And the least common multiple, so the smallest number that could be multiplied to make from 4. So if I do like whisper shout counting, by the way, my 4s go 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. And my 10s go 10, 20. So that 20 is the least common multiple, all right? Some kids are just like, meh, not worth my time to find the least common multiple. They just multiply by the other number. Totally cool. You do you, boo-boo. But I'm going to make my y's say 20. So here on the yellow, I'm going to times everything by 5. All right? So when I do that, I get negative 55x minus 20y equals whatever 36 times 5 is. Using my handy dandy calculator. Please do not do mental math. Use your calculator. Can't tell you how many times you guys get stuff wrong because you guys, make little mistakes with your multiplication or adding, okay? Now on this one, when I go to make my blue have a 20y, I want it to say plus 20y. So I need to change the sign of that 10y that's there. So I'm going to multiply by a negative. And to go from 10 to 20, that would be a negative 2. So negative 10x times negative 2 is a positive 20x. Negative 10y times negative 2 is positive 20y. And 20 times negative 2 is negative 40. Now I got the nice situation of having the same coefficient with opposite signs in front of my y. So when I add my two equations together, those y's go by Felicia. They cancel each other out. So for my x's, negative 55x plus 20x is negative 35x. And on the right-hand side, 180 minus 40 is 140. And my last step here is to divide, because this negative 35 is multiplied to the x. And the inverse operation of multiplication is to divide. And when I do that, a positive divided by a negative is going to come out negative. And 140 divided by 35 is 4. So now that I know my x value, I need to plug it back in to find my y value. I could plug it in to any of these equations as long as there's an x and a y in them. All right. It doesn't really matter which one I choose. I recommend one of these sets of the equations, though, because they have smaller numbers. And are smaller numbers better numbers? You bet your bacon they are. I'm just going to go with the yellow equation because it's right there, and why not? All right, so negative 4y minus 11 times my negative 4. Notice when I'm substituting this in, I'm using parentheses. Because if I don't put the parentheses, it looks like negative 11 minus 4, and you might be tempted to subtract. Don't do that. You don't want that mistake. Equals 36. Alrighty, and now that I've done that, I can times these together. So negative 4y plus 44 equals 36. And then right now my y has multiplication and addition, so I have to cancel that addition by subtracting. So I get negative 4y equals probably negative 8, but I tend to make a lot of silly mistakes. So I'm taking out my calculator, crying to myself as I type it in. All right, getting my negative 8. Then my last step, gotta squeeze it here. I'm dividing by negative 4. And so that's where I'm getting y equals 2 from. So my solution, which I'm writing as an ordered pair, is negative 4 and then a positive 2. Ignore the negative sign I just wrote. There we go. All right. Your solution must be written as an ordered pair. And you must solve this by hand on your test. All right, so the two methods that you can use to solve the system, all right, there's lots of them. There's graphing, there's matrices, there's this, which was elimination, there's substitution. All right, so there's many ways that you could solve it. You just have to pick one that works and goes for it. In this case, we're solving with elimination.